Thank you. So Donna has set the recording, and this is so that the webinar can be recorded for those who can attend or anybody who may need to leave early. So as I said, we're going to have some webinars later this spring on other features of cooperative agreements like claims and reports and amendments, and we'll also have a separate webinar about the 2020 funding opportunity. And I'll say just a little bit about that at the end. So today, we're really focused on just getting started with the cooperative agreements. First, and next slide please, Donna, I want to say a little bit about VS's Farm Bill programs. So as most of you know, the 2018 Farm Bill included funding for animal disease prevention and management, and this is really exciting because it's the first time that Congress provided specific and required funding to these key areas. And the Farm Bill established a three-pillar program, and the three sub-programs are the National Animal Disease Preparedness and Response Program, or what we call NADPRP, a new U.S. vaccine bank with a priority for acquisition of foot and mouth vaccine, and also included required funding for the National Animal Health Laboratory Network. So the NALM was already established, but in the 2018 Farm Bill provided mandatory funding to NALM that supplements their appropriated funds. Next slide, please. So today, of course, we're really just focused on the NADPRP program and particularly the first year of the funding opportunities in this program. Next slide. So to dive in just a little more detail about the NADPRP program, this is a program that allows APHIS to enter into cooperative agreements with a wide range of different partners to support high-value projects that are aimed at preventing the introduction and spread of foreign and emerging animal diseases that threaten livestock and related industries in the United States. There's some key features about the NADPRP program. First of all, as I said, it allows a lot of different eligible entities to enter into cooperative agreements with APHIS, and that includes states, land-grant universities, industry organizations, veterinary organizations, tribal organizations, and other federal entities. The program is administered as a competitive funding process, and the program features no-year money, which allows us to enter into agreements that will last for more than just 1 year. Next slide, please, Donna. So VS administers the program as an annual cycle of activity that involves these 6 steps. It starts with defining the funding priorities for the year, and then VS issues a funding opportunity announcement and starts an open period where we accept proposals for funding. And then we go into a period where we review those proposals with an external panel of subject matter experts and using predetermined criteria and standard processes. We then go into a stage where we have that recommended spending plan approved through VS, up through APHIS and at the USDA level, and we're able to announce and publish the spending plan, and that spending plan lists the projects to be funded that year. And then we get to the stage where we are now, which is awarding funds, and then we enter into a stage of monitoring the projects and reporting on the project outcomes. Next slide. So in 2019, as you all know, because you applied for the funds, the funding priority in 2019 was aimed at training and exercises for animal ag emergency responders. And in 2019, we received 64 proposals, and those proposals requested over $15 million in funds, and we had only about $5 million to spend, and that was at the direction of the Secretary. So the reviewers had a really challenging task of reviewing the proposals and identifying the very best, and they recommended 39 projects for funding, and the Secretary allowed us to award funds to those 39 projects for a total of $5.2 million awarded. Next slide. So this kind of brings us in put that in perspective of the timeline that I just described. We had our open period for the program. It started at the end of August and went through the end of October. We spent the period late October through mid-December reviewing the proposals, and then we shifted into the approval stage. On December 15th, we pushed the recommended spending plan up to through our channels and VS and APHIS up to the Secretary, and on January 16th, the Secretary approved the spending plan and allowed us to announce the funded projects, and you all received an email then notifying you of the award. And that brings us to where we are now, which is meeting with all of you to take the next steps on getting those agreements stood up and awarding the funds. So congratulations on getting through it this far, and we look forward to working with you. So next slide, please. So we're really excited to work with you as project leaders and as cooperators. And many of you have worked with VS on cooperative agreements in the past, but some of you are new, so we want to make sure that our steps today that we cover are clear, and we provide you with the resources you need to get going with these cooperative agreements. We sent you a recipient guide yesterday, and after today's webinar, we'll send that again, as well as the slides and a link to the recording from this webinar. Of course, your most important responsibility is to carry out the project in accordance with the work plan and financial plan that you submitted and that was approved for funding. However, there are also some administrative responsibilities that are needed to manage your side of the agreement, and that includes, complying with the general terms and conditions of the agreements and conducting activities, of course, toward achieving the award objectives, performing the monitoring activities to assure that progress is achieved, submitting your performance and financial reports that are required, tracking your project and completing tasks in a timely way, expending funds in accordance with your work plan, submitting claims. You're also responsible for maintaining an official agreement file. We want you to please address issues that come up with your projects with your APHIS program manager who's been assigned to your project. You're also responsible, if needed, for submitting requests for amendments. And at the end of the project, we need you to submit required equipment and property reports and to conduct the closeout activities for the project. So again, we look forward to working with you and stepping you through the project processes. So next slide. I just have a couple more things before I hand it over to Donna, and she's really going to dive into the detail on the next steps for your agreements. But there are a few features about Farm Bill agreements that differ from some of our other APHIS veterinary services agreements, and this is mostly for those of you who have worked with VS in the past on, say, umbrella or ADT agreements, just so that you're aware of some of these differences. So first of all, as you all know, because you've just gone through it, our Farm Bill program, the NADPRP program, is administered as a competitive funding process. So we have a competitive review process with external reviewers, and the Secretary approves all these projects and makes all of the final funding decisions. Because, as I said, we have Know Your Money, we're allowed to enter into agreements that go past 1 year, and in the 2019 funding opportunity, we established that agreements could span up to 2 years in time. With Farm Bill agreements, there are no pre-awards. The awards start on the date when the agreement is signed by the VS signatory official. For some of you, this has already happened. We've already moved them through. We also have a little bit more reporting requirements on these Farm Bill agreements, and this is because it's very important that we demonstrate the strength of this program and the value of this program to Congress. They expect these reports from us. They expect to see clear deliverables and clear and measurable outcomes. And as I said earlier, we'll be hosting some other webinars regarding the reporting requirements. It's not going to be terribly onerous. We just want to make sure that we get some specific feedback from you on the good things that you're doing with your project so that we can share that with Congress and stakeholders. Okay, next slide. All right, so what we're going to cover today specifically is your next steps as recipients. We want you to discuss the project, your project, with the VS program manager that's assigned your project, and then if needed, you may need to revise your work and financial plan. And again, Donna's going to step us through that. We need you to submit your application in EasyFed Grants and check all the documents that go in there. And then once it's submitted, we need you to respond to approval request from Easy Fed Grants. So these are the things we're going to cover in detail today. As I said later on, we're going to cover the steps that you need to do with respect to post-award management, like claims and reports. And we'll also cover in a future webinar the closeout steps. So next slide. We just have one more thing to tell you before Donna dives into some detail and introduces you to the Easy Fed Grant steps. So everything went really smoothly with our 2019 process, and we're very happy with that because it's our first year of this program. We had the open period, as I said, it ended in October. Most of you are, or all of you are aware of that because you submitted your proposals by then. And you applied at that time primarily by applying to grants.gov. Our review process went well. The approval process also went well, and to be honest with you, we were surprised that the Secretary approved the application, the funding package as quickly as he did. However, it came to January and the Secretary approved the funding. We had anticipated that the application packages that you all had submitted in grants.gov would move electronically into Easy Fed Grants. In fact, we had been assured that, and we had tested it, and it seemed to be working. But unfortunately, most of the applications did not move electronically and directly from grants.gov into Easy Fed Grants. So we're having now to go to a Plan B, where we have you all as applicants apply again in Easy Fed Grants. And this is, although you've been awarded funds, this is just a formality so that we can use the Easy Fed Grant system to administer your award. And I want to assure you that we're doing everything we can to make sure this doesn't happen in the next round of funding. But it did happen this year, and so what we're going to cover today is the steps we all need to take to make sure that you get your funds awarded in a timely way. So at this stage, I am going to pass it over to Donna. She's going to get into more details about Easy Fed Grants and your next steps. Thanks, Donna.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. So Easy Fed Grants, a lot of you already know what the system is and what it can do or cannot do, depending. And for those that don't know, Easy Fed Grants is the online grants management system that USDA implemented several years back, and that the majority of the USDA programs are using. APHIS is one that is using Easy Fed Grants. So the system allows us to keep track of federal assistance awards, mainly at this point, grants and cooperative agreements for the whole life cycle of the award. So at the beginning stages, which is the opportunity, applications, submitting your award through an electronic signature process, getting that in place so that you've got funding to spend for your project. Then going into post-award management, which is submitting your reimbursement request through the claims process, the progress reports, whether it be quarterly financial or quarterly programmatic reports, as well as if we have to conduct a revision or an amendment to your award, that process goes through Easy Fed Grants as well. The system does allow us compliance for the USA spending, which is Data Act requirement, so that us, USDA as an agency, submits the proper information up to Congress. And as well as we use the system to address any congressional inquiries that we may receive. And we use Easy Fed Grants, of course, to close out the award once the performance period has expired. And today we're going to mainly focus on the award portion, which is the action that you take to get your award completed, executed, signed, so that you can move on to the activities in your work plan. And I just included a slide here for those of you that might not have access to Easy Fed Grants. I think the majority of you do. I've spoken to a number of you already, and I've looked up accounts in Easy Fed, and it seems that the majority of you have access. If you don't, here shows some steps that you need to go through to obtain access. And these links in the presentation, when you receive it, they're active links. So if you click on the blue hyperlink, it should take you to that particular website. And as a recipient for federal funds, each recipient needs to have a minimum of 2 individuals. One, as an individual, that's a grants administrative officer, and that position will allow the staff member to assign roles to other individuals in that organization. And then we also need a signatory official, which would be the one authorized to sign the federal award on the agency's or the organization's behalf. Those 2 people cannot be the same. And I've included a little chart that allows you to see the 3 roles available to you as a recipient, what those responsibilities are or what the allowabilities are if you are assigned that particular role. There's the grant processor role, the grants administrative official, and the signatory official. And just a reminder, if you could please mute your phone or your computer if you're listening through your computer. Thank you. I just hear some background noise. The slide that's up provides some links and information to training and guidance material as well as job aids for recipients. The page that's shown on the left, which is the EasyFed Grants homepage, you can actually launch EasyFed Grants from that page if you wanted to bookmark it on your computer, as well as it provides a number of different training modules and job aids. And it provides a calendar where our Chief Financial Officer's office that manages EasyFed Grants provides training, and it's offered several times a month. It's mainly focused a lot on recipient processes. There's some trainings that are more for internal federal agency staff, but a majority of them are for recipients, and they're very generalized trainings. They're not specific to veterinary services or APHIS processes, but they're still very good to take advantage of if you can. They're free, and like I said, they're offered in some cases several times a month, and there's a calendar right there on that website for the homepage for EasyFed Grants. The other side, on the right side, that's job aids for recipients that are available through the APHIS Agreement Service Center page, and if you click the blue link that says EasyFed Job Aids, that hyperlink will take you right to that section. And this too, I wanted to just make a note because we've had a couple of individual organizations that have had a few challenges with, or technical challenges with EasyFed Grants as a system. I would highly recommend, if you're having system issues, that the best course of action be to reach out to the EasyFed Grants help desk. And on the home page there, the one that's on the left, you can find the email address. And there they'll be able to look and see what's happening from the back end, the system, the developers, and see if there's some sort of hang up with the system that I can't see from my access. I've got limited access on from a recipient's perspective, so I can try to help the best I can, but it would be best and probably faster if you can reach out to the EasyFed Grants help desk. And then here you'll see this is what the external portal looks like. The majority of you are probably very familiar with it, but for those of you that aren't, this is what it looks like. And if you've got action items to move through the system, such as an application to approve or an agreement, they can be found here. This shot here shows you your home screen. Right on the left side, there's a task called Work List, and there you'll find actionable items that if you've got the proper role, you can take action on any items listed there. You can also access here under the the categories in black and the gray bars. If you've got a pending application, you can click there and take action from that area as well. So where we are now, some awards that were submitted were fully funded, and others had to be revised for various reasons. If your application was fully funded, great. You got an email saying that it was, and you just needed to submit to the opportunity that was sent in an email and just reattach the documents in EasyFed grants to that opportunity number. And for those of you that did have to revise your work and financial plan, we ask that you work with your program manager to review the required revisions to the work and financial plan. Once that program manager approves the revisions, then you would apply to the opportunity with the revised documents to include the revised Standard Form 424, which is the application for federal funding, and the Standard Form 424A, which is the budget component of that application. And that 424A, the budget piece, needs to match up with the revised financial plan. So the total project award would need to match up, as well as the cost categories that you've got in your financial plan, such as personnel, your fringe, equipment, supplies, travel, those categories. Some tips, as I mentioned, just check all your documents. Make sure your 424 documents are filled out completely, and submit those through the opportunity that was sent via an email to you. So here you'll find some cost guidance, and we had a number of questions about some disallowed costs. While some folks thought maybe it was a bit unusual because they were allowed in other agreements that you might have had with APHIS, but this Farm Bill program is different, and so the rules are a little bit different. And as Julie mentioned, the reviewers had a really tough time trying to wheedle through the multitude of great projects that we received with funding amounts that were so much greater than what we had to give. So they had to make some tough choices and had to go through some hard decisions about what was going to be disallowed and allowed. And Julie, did you want to talk to this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you framed it nicely, Donna, but I'll say that so Congress did provide some specific rules about the NADPRP funds that are stated in the Farm Bill. For example, the indirect cost rate was set by Congress at 10%, and they also have some restrictions on the use of funds, such as we can't use the funds to construct buildings. But Congress also provided APHIS with discretion in administering the program and additional discretion in how to make decisions regarding the best use of funds. So as Donna said, this year we received over $15 million in requests for funds, and we only had $5 million to give out. So the reviewers had to make some tough decisions. So the reviewers discussed the 2019 proposals, and they noticed, for example, that some of the proposals included a lot of costs for food and beverages at training events. And so they discussed this, and they recommended to disallow food and beverages. And really, they did this so that they could fund more projects. So they made the decision, or they made the recommendation that APHIS should, or that USDA should disallow food and beverages in this round of funding so that more training and exercise projects could be funded, and the Secretary supported that decision. So that's kind of how this evolved. We'll try to be more clear in funding opportunity announcements going forward so that we reduce the level of confusion around these. And that's all I had, Donna.
Great. Thanks, Julie. So, let's see, the next slide here is what the next steps are, and we've kind of covered them already, but after review and approval by your program manager, you would apply to the Opportunity and Easy Fed grants. The application then is reviewed by me, and for the awards that were fully funded, a lot of those documents I can actually use some of what I might have received before, but I look at what you have, make sure all the required documents are attached, make sure there's recipient names of who I can contact and list as the signatory official, who is the administrative contact, because I need to assign those in a partner list in Easy Fed grants when I'm at the award stage. So I look at that application. If no further changes are needed, I approve that application. It goes back to my program manager, who then does a final approve on it. And what happens then is all that application detail and the attachments get dumped into Easy Fed grants into a draft agreement, and that's where I start building your award document. And here's the workflow. It's a little graphic that just shows the process for the award. And so when I get the draft agreement, it comes to me, I build the award document, I send it out to the program manager so that they can approve what I developed and make sure it includes everything that it needs to. They approve it. It goes to the recipient signatory official. That's why I need a name on the 424 documents of who's going to sign off. So that recipient signatory official gives their stamp of approval. It comes back to veterinary services, and our agency signatory official signs it, and then it goes up to our financial approver, who makes sure that I set the right amount of money aside to be able to pay for this award. And then once the financial approver approves my award document, it becomes active. And that is the beginning of your performance period. And so, as Julie noted, there are no pre-awards with the Farm Bill cooperative agreements, and that because of that, it's hard to determine an exact start and end date because we're not sure exactly of when these signatures are going to take place. So what needs to happen is when the agreement is in active status, I get an email, I open the agreement, I amend the start and end dates to reflect the date of final signature, and then I create a new award face sheet, and I send that out to my recipient contacts and my program managers, letting you know what the official performance period is. Unfortunately, it's just an extra step that we have to go through because we're not operating under pre-awards. And I also wanted to just make mention that for those states that fall under the single point of contact, it's complying with executive order, I think it's 12372. Those states that fall under the signal SPOC, what it's called, have to submit their correspondence letter with the SPOC with their award documents in their application. They can, another option would be, if they don't have a correspondence letter, is to, on their 424, there's a section on that application for federal funding that asks if the state is a SPOC state, when did they send in the application for review by the SPOC? And you put a date in there. Because as a federal awarding agency, I'm sort of stuck. For those states that comply with the SPOC process, I have to wait for new awards 60 days if I don't have a letter. So if you didn't put a date in there when you originally applied back in October, I've got to start that clock 60 days from when you tell me you submitted the application in. So just keep that in mind for future. If your state does comply with that executive order and and you are required to let the SPOC know what you're applying for. So again, next steps, just talk with your program managers. Make sure that your revised work and financial plan are approved by them. Submit all your required documents that are needed through the Opportunity and Easy Fed grants. And we can get your award moving. And then,
okay.
Julie, back to you.
Thanks, Donna. A couple of things before we move on to the question stage. I know that a few of you are probably going to ask about what about the next funding opportunity in this program, so I want to give you a short update here. Right now, we are in the process of forming a consultation board that will include representatives from all of the eligible entities, so states, industry organizations, academia, and so on. And that board will be formed by the end of the month, and they will be tasked with recommending the funding priorities for 2020. So once we get those funding priorities identified and defined, and we get the Secretary's approval, we will be issuing the 2020 funding opportunity announcement. So at this point, I can't give you an exact date. We expect that to happen later this spring. Next slide. So just to wrap things up from what we've talked about, our target that Donna and I have, we would like to get all these cooperative agreements.
Alexa off.
Excuse me? Oh, pardon me. Maybe somebody needs to mute their line. We want to get all the cooperative agreements awarded by March 31st, so we appreciate your help with this. And we will be having, as I said, another webinar that will focus on the next steps like claims and reporting in early April. And I just want to say before we turn it over for questions that this NADPRP program is new, and our Farm Bill team here in Veterinary Services is new. We really appreciate your partnership as leaders on these projects, and we look forward to working with you. As we go along, we welcome your comments and your ideas on how we can make the program processes easier for you moving forward. So thank you. And last slide. At this time, we'd like to take any of your questions. We hope that you'll speak up on the phone, but you can also enter your question in the chat area. So right now we need somebody to be brave and ask the first question.
This is Mark Hutchinson from the University of Maine.
Hi.
Can you, what's the date we can start spending money? Can we spend money before the execution of the award?
Donna, you want to take that?
Oh, sure, yes. No money can be spent on this award until you have a fully signed agreement in place. So we have to make sure we've got your work and financial plan in to Easy Fed grants, and once we have that application approved, then it goes into that draft agreement stage, and I just build the agreement. I push it through for getting all the signatures that were on that little flow chart that I showed in the blue boxes. And once the financial approver signs and it becomes active, then that's I change the award to show the date of that final signature, and then I'll send you the revised face sheet showing the official performance period.
And I would add to that once you get your application in Easy Fed grants, we can get it done quite quickly, you know, as long as we just get the right people to sign. But with the ones we've been working on this week, it's just a matter of days. Any other questions?
Is there anything in the chat? No.
Hi, Donna. This is Liz Roberts from the Missouri Department of Agriculture.
Hi, Liz.
Hi. I believe that our application was one that you were able to transfer over from grants.gov to Easy Fed grants. And my question is, how will we be able to access that once it's in Easy Fed grants? Will it just be a matter of award?
Yes. Yeah, you'll whoever is the administrative contact and the signatory official, they'll get emails through the EasyFed grant system letting you know that there's an award that needs to be signed. And yeah, so be on the lookout for an email from EasyFed Grants. And I've been sending out emails to the program manager letting them know that the award is out there and to reach out to you all to let you know that the award's ready for your signature.
Great. We may need to change our signatory official from the SF424 as well. Will that be a problem? Because our director is our signatory official, but she's not an EasyFed Grants, so we may need to adjust that.
Oh, okay. If you could send me an email, depending on what stage it's in, I might be able to change it now.
Okay. Yep, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a message or a question in the chat. Just to clarify, you have already executed agreements with some recipients, yes. Is that the only question? Oh, wait.
What other questions do you all have on the line?
Oh, I have another question. For the 424 box 2, should the application be submitted as new or revised? And I would just choose new. And then another one, how do we know if our application needs to be resubmitted into EasyFed Grants? Your program manager should have reached out to you by now. If they have not, just send me a message and I can connect you. Any other burning questions out there? Very exciting time. Anybody? Julie, do you have any final comments or anything else to add?
Yeah, so we have our contact information here on the slide, so feel free to email us or pick up the phone and ask us your questions that way. After this webinar today, as soon as I get the recording coordinates, I'll send everybody who received the original invitation the recording for the webinar and the slides, and I'll resend the recipient guide. We look forward to working with you, and give us a call if you have more questions or send us an email. Thanks for everybody's time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.